Hello, it is Dream, and today we got tons of news about the newest collab coming to Octopath CotC this week, Triangle Strategy. It was hinted to us that the collab units would be getting a buff in Global because of how lackluster they are in comparison to not only our current MTs, but being completely eclipsed by a future collab, Live Alive. However, in today's Tavern Talk, it was revealed what the global buffs would be for our Gacha units, and boy, did they blow everybody's minds. We thought they were going to get like a stat change, maybe buff one skill here and there. They almost reworked both of their entire kits. And so we're going to get into that later. This video will be about the changes that are coming to Global, the impact on the pull ranking that these characters now have, and I will also be going over the other quality of life and shop changes that they're making with the upcoming update. So first things first, if you guys don't know, Triangle Strategy is another game developed by the producer who makes Bravely Default, who made Octopath, who's making Octopath CotC, Asuno. So it's another one of his projects. It's kind of done in the same art style, but it's done in a tactical RPG way. There's a free demo out where you can try the first little bit of the game, and it'll carry over on into your main save file once you actually buy the game if you want to. So I definitely recommend it. But from the game, we are getting 3 units. The main character, Sarah Noah, will be a free character, just like in Bravely Default with Elvis. It's a free unit that you can grind up to being a full 5-star A4 Ultimate Level 10 on a new Fortune game board. Even for being a free unit, he is a very strong character, so I definitely recommend starting to work on him ASAP when we get the collab later this week. But he is not one of the characters that got buffs, because as we just said, he's already strong. He didn't really need them. And so the 2 units that did get buffed are the 2 units that will be inside of the Gacha banners. These being the other 2 main characters of the game, Frederica coming in as a Fire Scholar, and Roland coming in as a Spear Merchant. If you listen to the latest episode of the COTC podcast we had with Promme and Grape, then you would know that both of these characters were basically given the skip tier, with Roland having an honorable mention for almost being worth it. But with these buffs, it's definitely changing where they are in my list, so we'll get into that in just a second. First, I want to talk about how they revised the banner structure from JP. We've completely deviated from how they've done collabs both in JP and NA at this point. And so we're getting a regular free banner with both the units on it, 200 Fragment Pity, just like normal. However, what's changed are the paid banners. Instead of having a single step paid banner with both units on it and a chance at either or on the 5th step, they each have their own individual banners, one for Frederica and one for Roland, in which on step 5 you are guaranteed the character whose banner you are pulling on. Meaning that if you go to step 5 on Frederica's banner, you are guaranteed Frederica, you are not rolling the dice against Roland, and you are not rolling the dice against the general pool. This is an extremely cool quality of life update for spenders, light spenders, and whales alike, and whales, you're going to like what I have to say a little bit later. Alongside this new banner structure, we also have some half-price packs like normal, along with the Awakening Stone packs, where you can buy a bundle of paid rubies along with a guaranteed Awakening Stone for either Frederica or Roland, just like with past collabs and with the most recent MC banner, along with some new ways to spend your money that we'll talk about near the end of the video. So with all of that out of the way, let's start talking about the changes and the buffs that our characters got. We will start off with the waifu Frederica, since she went from an easy skip unless you are simping, to honestly one of the strongest mages in the game, even by JP standards, along with gaining one of the most powerful A4s in the game, again by JP standards. So on screen right now, I'm going to put up what Frederica's kit is currently in JP. She was basically just a Mulu 2.0, she hit a little harder, and instead of doing the gimmick around doing fire res down, her gimmick is around combusting or burning the enemy, just like Fior EX counter does, where at the end of every single turn, it reduces the enemy's shield count by 1, and they take a little bit of damage. The other small niche that she would have brought to the table is that she is the first character to have an active fire damage up, so that you can give it to people like Cyrus, you can give it to people like Therian, you can give it to people like Mulu, to stack on top of the passive fire damage that they get from accessories or from their own passives. So with that in mind, I'm now going to add on screen the global version of Frederica that we will be getting this week. So let's just start from top to bottom. Her first skill was changed from a single target 1 hit to a single target 2 hit that now always does shield crack and inflicts burning for 3 turns, and with her new passive, that upped to 4. She also had her regular nuke changed from a 1.2 times potency boost if the target is burning to a 1.5 times potency boost if the target is burning. This also is reflected in her special, going from also a 1.2 times multiplier to a 1.5 times multiplier. along with the penalty for not being able to use BP after using her ultimate from 3 turns down to 2. I don't know if this change was because her passive is going to up it back to 3 because it is an ailment, but we'll just have to see when she comes out. And then, of course, the best part of the changes of her kit, her passives. Her passive for 30% fire damage was changed to 15% fire damage, because you'll see it gets made up for in the other one. Plus, status ailments inflicted by self plus 1 turns. This means that all burns she does will be inflicted for 1 extra turn, so that 3 in that first skill we talked about turns to a 4, and the 2 turns that are inflicted by her 3 times fire AoE is now a 3 turn. Notably, this part of the passive was moved from her A4 accessory into her base kit for free. And we're not even done yet. While there is a burning enemy, the full front row has 15% all elemental damage up and 15% magic up. All elemental damage up is the equivalent to saying 15% fire damage up, 15% ice, 15% lightning, 15% wind, light, dark, everything. It is an all elemental damage boost up. This is absolutely crazy. This means that she's not only an enabler for fire teams now, she's an enabler for any elemental team, including those whose main attributes are not mages, because mages mostly come with their elemental damage fully done. However, if you're using something like a Therian with fire, or you're using something like an Adia with light, you're going to need that extra elemental damage up in your passives or in your accessories. And so this will do that for the entire front row, along with coming with 15% magic attack up. And then last but not least, the changes to her A4 accessory. They moved, of course, that status ailment inflicted +1 to her passive. They upped the front row ally gain when there is a burning enemy to 15% from 10%, meaning that she now self-caps entire front row magic 30% passive. And they added a inflict burning on all enemies at the start of battle. To put this in perspective, Salone, who has another great A4 accessory that also inflicts burning at the start of battle, only comes with 80 magic attack opposed to the 100 on this one, along with only coming with 15% fire damage up compared to a full front row 15% magic attack up. So to cover everything we kind of just went over with a nice bow tie, she went from a Mulu 2.0 fire mage to being one of the best enablers for any kind of elemental team across the entire game. And for you whales or lucky people out there, her A4 only makes enabling teams even better and even easier. So that, paired along with the fact that her paid step up is a solo banner where you are guaranteed her on every single lap, I definitely got to say that if you are a spender, I recommend you put your money here. The only caveat I want to add to this, just so that you guys are aware, is that some bosses and some fights in the future are immune to burning and combustion. So because of that, she will not be able to enable those specific fights, but every single fight outside of those immunities, she is going to be the elemental goat. And so now on to our second character who also received some amazing buffs, our Prince Roland. So just like we did for Frederica, let's pull up what his kit looks like currently in JP. In JP, he is a decent spear attacker with the benefit of having a single target defense and spear defense down for 2 to 5 turns. This, paired along with our 4-star spearman, Pia's spear defense down attack, this could max out for 30% spear defense down, which is definitely helpful to his peers like Leon and Crosser. However, he just kind of didn't do enough damage behind it to make pulling for him on a banner with old Frederica worth it. So let's talk a little bit about his fight gimmick. His gimmick is that he wants to use his spear AoE to be sent back to the back row, which will give him the opportunity to come to the front row for the next turn, giving him opportune attack. Opportune attack is a passive buff he gets when returning to the front row, which makes some of his skills gain an additional hit when attacking, and also gives them 15% damage up. The problem with this cycle is that he has to break it every single time he wants to extend the defense and spear defense down passive, along with the fact that it just didn't do as much damage as a Leon or a Crosser would in that position. So with all of that in mind, I'm now going to switch the infographic to be the buffed version we are receiving in Global this week. First things first, he got a speed buff of 50 to his base speed, making his A0 go from 300 to 350 and his A1 go from 350 to 400. And then our first major change to his kit at the top there, Spear AoE that sends him backwards now adds physical defense and polearm resist down by 10%. This means that now with his single target 20% down for each of those categories, he can now self-cap it, and in his own cycle of being sent to the back and then back to the front for opportune attack, is now keeping that buff up 24/7. So that change alone solves his problem of having to pick between his cycle and keeping his debuffs up. This is alongside the change where Opportune Attack now affects his single target nuke. So you can now come out of the back row, come to the front, your debuffs are being fully kept up for you, and now you have 2 giant 260 power nukes to throw into the boss every other turn. And in the case where you're already kind of ramming Cap with that skill and you would do more damage with his multi-hit, they added an extra hit to his multi-hit so you can even abuse min-maxing teams all the way up to that point. And speaking of min-maxing, we also have a buff to his ultimate when at U10 now does 20% spear res down for 2 turns. This of course being able to be extended to 3 turns through the use of Kurt's A4 or A2's A4. On top of all that, they added an extra 15% physical attack up to his Opportune Attack to go alongside the 15% all damage up accompanied by it. And then his final change is something that one of the community managers, Limit, read on stream, but was not a part of the slides, so we have yet to verify if this passive is indeed written correctly. But as he read it on stream today, it said, you have a chance to inflict 15% passive spear res down for 2 turns when attacking or using skills. If it is indeed written the way that we're going to get it, then oh my god, it is going to add even more damage to spear teams. So again, to wrap this up in a nice little bow for you guys, in JP right now, he's basically a mediocre spear with a little bit of utility that helps buff the other good spears in the game. But in Global, the version that we are getting is an even better enabler for spear teams all the way down the line in every single way, doesn't have to break from his cycle once he starts it, along with having an insane damage buff to go with it to make him comparable to the output of a Crosser or a Leon in his own right. So with all of that said, if you are making spear teams like I am, he is a definite must add to that composition. He's not exactly a unit that I recommend pushing all the way to A4 on, like I do for Frederica if you are a spender or a whale. However, I do definitely recommend getting his U10 and then his A1, and then anything after that is just bonus. You don't really need his A2, and you definitely don't need his A3. He is plenty strong without them. And so that covers the buffs we're getting to our Gacha collab units and Triangle Strategy this week. And I also want to give a shout out to the team in the Discord that maintains these sheets that I've been showing to you on screen, along with an honorable shout out from my boy Promme, who helped review and edit my overview of these 2 characters. And then the last thing I want to cover in this video is the new controversial shop they are adding to the game, New Encounters. Inside of this new encounters section of the shop, you can spend $8 to receive an encounter and then eventually a guide stone of each of the 5-star characters that are the COTC original 8. Fior, Sophia, Gilderoy, Millard, Theo, Lynette, Viola, and Scarecrow. So if you are still missing like a Lynette U10, or if you're like 1 away from like a good A4, then it's definitely something that you can spend $8, finish up real quick, easy peasy, definitely way better spend than ever having to go through the actual gacha and random them. But there is a limit to 1 per each of the 8, so you can get 1 Fior, 1 Sophia, each for $8, kind of like that. However, the reason why this new shop is controversial is because they also put a long missing character, Promme, inside of the shop with them. He is discounted to $3 a copy, and you can buy all 6 copies you would need to get him to A4 plus U10. And he does have a very useful A4 if you're willing to shell out the $15 for it. However, he as a character is pretty weak. He's been a general pull unit that we've skipped week after week from release, and so they're basically at the point where no one's going to pull on his banner. Let's just put him in a shop. However, there are some free-to-play players that did look forward to this character. They like pulling on non-meta units, and so they're kind of upset that they are forced to pay $3 to get a copy of him. And basically, the community is scared that this is testing the waters for adding more characters to be pay-only units. Personally, I just think we need to let our community managers and the devs know through feedback that that's not something we want to happen in the future, but with something like this, I think personally this is fine. He's not a character I wanted to add to the general pool. He's a character that I probably would have full skipped if I could not buy his A4 for $15, so if you are a spender, it's a big come up, and if you're not a spender, you might feel a little bit left out, but at the end of the day, he's not a character to cry over, and $15 really isn't an egregious amount of money to ask for, considering the hundreds of dollars you have to spend to get other characters' A4s. So there's all of the info I wanted to let you guys know about from today's Tavern Talk and my opinion on it. Let me know what you guys think about all the stuff down below. If you're pulling, if you're not pulling, if you're buying Promme, if you're not buying Promme, how you feel about the whole situation. I will see you guys in the next one. Till then, stay safe, stay cute, booyah-yah.